UFC 305. I know you were in Bristol, Connecticut. You were on the ESPN duties. Anthony, the floor is yours. What did you think about that main event?
Man, that's not how I expected it to go. And I think that there's a couple things at play here. I think that maybe some of us expected a little too much out of Israel Adesanya coming back off of a long layoff. I think a lot of us looked at it like he's going to have this long layoff, so he's going to be refreshed and he's going to be happy and he's going to be eager to get in there and be super aggressive. And he's going to do all these things that maybe he wasn't doing in his last fight or so. I don't think we took into account that there is some ring rust when you fought 5 title fights in 17 months or whatever. It was a lot of title fights in a small amount of time, right? I don't remember the exact number, but you get used to rolling in there and you get used to being active and there's not any, you're super familiar with being in there. And he had a little bit of a layoff. And so I don't think we took that into account. And I don't know why, but I think even as analysts, we don't do a good enough job of giving Dricus Du Plessis his flowers. And
so I got to jump in there real quick. It sounds an awful lot like there's a lot of excuses being made there for Israel Adesanya.
No, there's some technical things too that he's doing differently that he never did before. He's always been magical defensively. He's always been magical defensively. He's been an incredible counter striker. But in the Strickland fight, something was different. I thought it was a one-off, and it's not, because he did it the entire Dricus fight. If you go back to the Robert Whittaker knockout, where Robert starts to throw the combination, Izzy's moving his head on the inside and then counters without removing himself from the pocket. He just had great vision, and he was able to avoid the big shot and land his own big shot. Did the exact same thing to Derek Brunson several times. He did the exact same thing when he finished Paulo Costa. He didn't remove himself from the action and then counter. He stayed in the pocket and counter. He did the same thing with Alex Pereira. He countered from the pocket. With Strickland, once after he got hurt by Strickland and dropped and almost finished, he never stayed in the pocket to exchange. He always wanted to retreat, get safe, and then go. Well, by that time, it's too late. And he did that a lot with Dricus Du Plessis. He removed himself completely, got himself completely out of range, and then Dricus wasn't there to be hit. So I don't know that he's gun shy after being knocked out by Alex Pereira, being hurt by Strickland. He's just not as willing to stand in there like he used to. And some of that is Dricus. He has crazy heavy power in his hands, and he's hyper aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I disagree quite strongly, to be honest. I thought Izzy looked really, really good. I mean, look at that round three. I mean, he was piecing Dricus up big time, ripping to the body, beautiful fast combinations, nice and crisp, of course. Dricus has a very awkward style. I thought Dricus looked, I mean, people always say, oh, he doesn't look too great, but he's effective. And we've had these conversations many times, and that's kind of the narrative. I mean, that was that on steroids. Dricus looked like he didn't belong in the octagon with him. Of course, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? It's mixed martial arts. It's not only striking. But Dricus looked like the most herky-jerky, hunky-clunky that we've ever seen him, right?
I compared him to Keith Jardine all weekend.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad comparison. The Dean of Mean, throwback there. But I tell you what, when he let go, when he went for it and he did that punching charge and just rushes forward, he would clip him, he would catch him. And when he did do that, I'm telling you, even though
Izzy 3 years ago would have countered him on the way in and on the way out. He wouldn't have retreated the way that he did on Saturday night. He's changed. Something's changed there.
Well, probably what's changed is that you go up the mountain, you plant your flag, you said, this town is mine. I own this mountain, not town, this country. This is Adesanya land. And then eventually someone comes over, rips that flag out and pitches their tent and says, screw you, this is mine. And that's what we saw, right? You go up, you can't stay there forever. Eventually what goes up must come down. Yeah, maybe he's getting a little slower. Maybe he's resting on his laurels. I don't know about any of that. I thought he was in tremendous shape. There was an image going around last week where before the Strickland fight and before the Dricus fight, and like the muscle tone on his body, he looked like he stepped up the strength and conditioning. He spoke about having fire back and being passionate and the sport passing him by. I thought he looked really really good. I just thought Dricus Du Plessis, with the wrestling attack that he had and with the commitment to the shots that he always has, to be fair, was just too much. I mean, it was round 2, I think, the takedown that Dricus got, picked him up, slammed him down. I thought, oh my God, he's got him. And the ability of Izzy to spring instantly back to his feet, the strength of the hips, very, very impressive. But what was even more impressive was the way that Dricus stayed with the takedown attempt, continued to scramble, double leg, single leg, high crotch, pick him up, put him down, jump on the back, try and choke him out. But of course, Izzy escaped, got back to his feet. And Dricus can say whatever he wants, but he was blowing out of his ass. He was utterly exhausted. Exhausted. And I thought, oh, here we go. Izzy's going to put it on him. But Dricus found a way to survive that round. I still gave round 2 to Dricus because he had big moments and moments of control. Round 3, that's when Izzy kind of showed, his true dominance, ripping to the body. Fair play to Dricus for taking all that stuff. And then in round 4, it looked like Izzy was starting to take over the fight. One good shot kind of wobbled Izzy. He kind of turned his back. Dricus jumped on him, and the way,
oh my gosh, that drove me crazy.
The way he turned his back,
that part of it, but also he did it earlier in the fight too, where he gets to his feet and Dricus has got his hands locked around Izzy's waist, and he fights the hands for a little bit, but he's got 2 hands free, and he's not 100% of the time. You should be peeling those hands off of your waist. There should be no hands on the fence. Maybe you check your balance for a second if you're going down, and you use a fist and try not to grab the fence and check your balance, but you got to get back to those hands. And then Dricus would let go with one hand and start punching at Izzy, and he's not turning and facing. Now his hands are apart and you're free. All you have to do is grab the one hand and then turn, and he just stays there and he covers. And then but the finishing sequence,
60% of the time, it works every time. What movie, Anthony? What movie?
I don't know what movie
come
it is.
on.
I know the quote, but I know the quote, but I don't know the movie. It's so frustrating.
Bringing back the movie quotes. Go on, carry on.
That's so frustrating. Like the little things like that. That's it. Just as in general to everyone listening, we all like to think there's these big skill advancements that make the biggest difference. This guy's this much better of a striker, this much better of a grappler. At the highest level, when it matters the most, when there's a world title on the line, little tiny things like that are what's going to be the difference between you leaving with 12 pounds of gold and not leaving with 12 pounds of gold. It's fighting the hands when you're on the fence. It's turning and facing every time their hands separate. It's little things like when you have an opportunity to separate and you don't. Those little things like that make the biggest difference and then lead to you end up having someone on your back getting choked.
Yes, correct. Technical things clearly matter in one of the most technical sports on the planet. However, the thing that really makes a difference is the heart and the mind and the not giving up. And that's what we saw from Dricus, because I'll tell you what, he was tired in round 2. He was tired in round 3. He was tired in round 4, but he didn't give up on himself. And that's what's so impressive, because when you're in a fight like that, I've been there. When you're in the training room, I've been there on runs, all the rest of it. On runs is the best example. I like to run a lot. When Callum was wrestling, I'd take him out. I'd take him on runs and he'd be like, and I'm like, see, you're tired. You want to stop. But I know for a fact that you want to stop because it feels good to stop. But you can dig deep. You can always dig a little deeper, because the human being wants to stop because it's burning. Your lungs are on fire. You're gasping for air. You're exhausted. It doesn't feel good. You're getting punched in the face. But are you truly willing to dig deep and push to that next level? And yeah, Dricus was tired, but he was willing to still endure that pain and keep going. And that for me is what's so impressive. Yeah, Izzy made some technical mistakes, and 60% of the time it works every time on the hands and all that shit, okay? But Dricus refused to give up and he continued to push him. Yeah, he was maybe not as fast, maybe he wasn't as technical, but the well-rounded threat and the heart and the passion for the sport that he had and wanting to win with all that South African versus African, who's the real champion, etc., all the African stuff. There's a lot on the line there. Who wanted it more? Dricus Du Plessis wanted that more, in my opinion.
It's also fascinating to me how we do talk a lot about some of his conditioning issues in the past, but one thing that we've never taken into account is no matter how tired he is, it doesn't typically change the way that he fights. He looks like the most tired, exhausted human being on the planet. But if you look at the output and the way that he's striking and the speed and the power that he's doing it at, it stays fairly consistent across the whole fight. His mannerisms look like he's on death's doorstep, but he doesn't change how he fights. Yeah.
Oh God, it's horrible. The worst feeling in the world being in a fight. Absolutely exhausting.
The aesthetics are bad, but
it's bad for judges. It's bad for the fans. Maybe it's good for Dricus. Maybe he knows. Maybe it's half an act.
Like he's panting at times like a dog. He's
dying.
But he's still flying. He's flying.
Got gears 6, 7, and 8 to push through. Hey, dude. And because he was going for the takedowns, you know this, right? Well, what do you think? Because going for some analysts disagree, some commentators disagree. Going for takedowns is 10 times harder than defending a takedown. Certainly if you're against the fence, because against the fence you play the whizzer, the underhook thing, and you're doing that.